When people use generic masculine language instead of more gender-inclusive forms, they communicate gender stereotypes and sometimes exclude women from certain social roles. You have probably encountered documents that use masculine nouns and pronouns to refer to subjects whose gender is unclear or variable, or to groups that contain people who are not actually men. For example, the US Declaration of Independence states that all men are created equal. Generations of Americans have been taught that men should be understood as including both men and women in this context. It has been discussed that in English, another instance of non-gender inclusive language is the use of nouns that are not gender specific to refer to roles or professions. For example, policemen and stewardess are gender-specific job titles. The corresponding gender-neutral terms are police officers and flight attendants. Historically, the use of masculine pronouns in place of generic was regarded as non-sexist. Various forms of gender-neutral language became common in the 20th century. And that was a reality for many languages, written or spoken. Feminists argue that the practice of assigning masculine gender stemmed from a male-centered, patriarchal society. During the 1970s, feminists Casey Miller and Kay Swift created a manual. They called it the Handbook of Non-sexist Writing. The handbook focused on gender-neutral language. It was meant to revolutionize the existing sexist language that was thought to exclude and dehumanize women. In the 1980s, many feminist efforts were made to reform the androcentric language. To treat all gender equally, efforts have been employed since the 1980s to propose a gender-neutral, gender-fair, non-sexist use of language, so that not gender is privileged and prejudice is not perpetuated. It has become common in some academic and government settings to rely on gender-neutral language to convey all sexes or genders. In 2008, the European Parliament was one of the first international organizations to adopt multilingual guidelines on gender-neutral language. They claimed that the gender-neutral or gender-inclusive language is more than a matter of political correctness, and that language powerfully reflects and influences attitudes, behaviors, and perceptions. International and European institutions such as the United Nations, the European Parliament, and the European Commission, as well as professional associations, universities, and some major news agencies, have adopted guidelines for a non-sexist use of language, either as a separate document or as a specific recommendation included in their style guides. In the European Union, many member states have also debated language policies and proposed such guidelines at various levels. In English, there is a difference between grammatical gender, gender as a social construct, and sex intended as a biological characteristic of living beings. Gender as a social construct refers to roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society at a certain time considers appropriate for men and women. English has very few gender markers, the pronouns and possessives he, she, her, and his, and some nouns and forms of address. Most English nouns do not have grammatical gender forms. For example, teacher, president. In contrast, a few nouns are specifically masculine or feminine: actor, actress, waiter, waitress. Some nouns that once ended in men now have neutral equivalents, such as police officer for policeman or policewoman, spokesperson for spokesman, chairperson for chairman. Men and the words ending in men are the most commonly used gendered nouns in English. These words are easy to spot and replace with more neutral language. even in contexts where many readers strongly expect a gender noun. For example, Star Trek writers, when they were developing material for contemporary viewers, they created a new version of the famous phrase, "Where no man has gone before." It has now become "where no one has gone before." So, using gender-neutral language has also become standard practice in both journalistic and academic writing. If you see the style manuals of different academic disciplines, APA, MLA, and Chicago, for example, it is very easy to see that they have made some changes. And it's also very easy to see that we do need gender-specific language to promote inclusiveness. Still, I can understand how it's really difficult in some cases. Have you ever thought of this? As a translator or as an interpreter, have you thought about this topic, and do you have an opinion on it? If you do, I'd like to discuss this in our debate. Thank you.